Welcome to another vintage fishing reel service video. In this episode we have a Zebco Red Rhino RR3, and that was first cataloged in 1997 and it went at least through 2001. And this one comes on a Rhino rod. I don't know if this was originally in a combo. I think the combo rod said Red Rhino on it. This Rhino has a glow tip on it. There's where it says glow tip, and it's a model ZRC 56MT 5'6" medium action rod, made in Korea. I think I got this one for pretty cheap. $10 or less. I don't remember the exact price, but we're going to get this off the rod and get into it. I've done these before, or at least once. I think two of them, but I don't remember. I don't remember what's in there, but we'll find out. Now, I have fished with these and I really like them. It's a really nice reel. The only bad thing about it is this rubber piece that goes over the thumb button can get kind of rotted out and that kind of thing, and so you gotta be really careful with that. But this one's been out in the sun. This cover's a little more faded than the other ones that I have, and it's pretty dirty. But let's see if we can get the cover off here. So a slight counterclockwise turn, all kinds of lake scum in there. This is going to be a classic spinner head removal where it's just counterclockwise unscrew. You can see oh, that's really greasy. Look how slowly that pin returns. No major cuts in the spinner head. The line break looks good, so we can put those things in the parts tray. Then we have your standard E-clip here that we just need to sneak off of there. I'm going to run this screwdriver into my hand here in a minute. The grease on there didn't help. And then we've got a metal keyed drag washer and a Teflon drag washer, and we'll make sure our drag is all the way off. Probably should have done that before I took off the E-clip. Yes, I should have. That was part of my problem, dummy. And of course you're going to have a Teflon, whoop, yeah, there it is, under, immediately against the back side of the spool, and then a keyed metal washer. And I'm going to get that line off of there quick. Well, confound it, I must have hit the pause button instead of the record button, and so the entire live action teardown of this reel ended up not getting recorded. And so I'm going to have to, I've already been inside and cleaned everything, and I'm going to have to reenact the teardown for you. This will be the only segment that isn't live action. When I come back for the rebuild, that'll all be part of the original video, but I'm going to have to, I had a snafu, and so I'm going to have to do this after it's been cleaned and lubricated. I like to show the reels as they're coming apart, as they were when found farm fresh, because these reels are sort of like a box of chocolates. You never know what's going to be on the inside, and that's part of the fun of watching these videos, is seeing how scruddy they are inside and what you typically find. But I'll try to make sure not to have any snafus in the future. So the next thing after this, the drag washers and spool and so on, is this little non-keyed drag ring, and then, or washer, and then you've got this pressure plate here. And these can kind of be a little cantankerous in terms of getting off of there. They fit pretty snugly, and then like if you try to raise up on one side, then it gets bound, and then you got to raise up on the other one. So there's the pressure plate, and there's your drag clicker. So the next thing is to take off the rear cover, and you want to be careful with this because this is a plastic ring, and so it's a slight counterclockwise turn. There's just a little notch in there, and then it comes off. Okay, so there are 3 little tabs that fit into 3 little notches, and so to get it back on, you just line up those tabs, twist it a bit, get it off, you twist it counterclockwise, pull it off. Now this rubber button and the plastic ring associated with it, I like to take and push in. There's 2 tabs, one here and one here, and so I don't break those. I'm just going to kind of push in there with the screwdriver, and then it'll come off, because you don't want to break those tabs and you're in trouble. Okay, we can take the handle off, and these are, as Zebco typically did, these exterior screw nuts, or whatever you want to call them, are essentially made for a coin, and if you use a coin, you won't booger them up like that one has been with the screwdriver. And so we'll take that off, and the handle, and of course this handle can be switched to either side depending on whether you're left-handed or right-handed. To get the main gear out, you're going to take a screwdriver and just pop these nylon bushings out, and it helps just to get up here a needle nose or something and grab hold of those and pull them out. Okay, and that'll allow you to pull the main gear out. Now there's supposed to be a little shim washer that goes over this part of the shaft and up against the main gear. The other thing that I couldn't figure out is, okay, this has a anti-reverse gear, but there's no pawl of any kind in there. And I thought, well, maybe it's missing. So I looked at one of my other ones, and there's no pawl in there. And the other one actually had a hole down here, a square hole that looked like where an anti-reverse pawl would go. So then I thought, this weird shaped thing here, it's cast in there, but it's like a shelf, and then it's like rounded on this side or sloped, and here it's just a hard angle. I thought, well, maybe that runs the anti-reverse, but if you look at it, that gear doesn't even line up with that thing. So I found out where the actual anti-reverse is later during reassembly. So you'll see that. I think this is a part that, quite frankly, may have been used in multiple reels, or maybe it was a change in design or something. I don't know. But that anti-reverse gear there does, so far as I can see, is 0. Nothing. If you want to get the drag knob out, okay, so there's the gear that runs the pressure plate. Just take and push that, let's see. Yeah, I think you just push that out like that, and it comes out. And then you can take, there's a little clicker here. It's not your drag clicker, it's your drag wheel clicker. Oh, we got to get our pinion gear and shaft out of there. And then you can kind of push that little clicker out of the way, and then your drag knob will come out. The recessed side faces the rear of the reel. The flat side faces the front of the reel. And then there's a bearing in there, and we're going to discover there's more than just a ball bearing in there during reassembly, because I'm going to take that out, and I'll show you how to get that out and what all's in there. But that's basically, here's all the parts. In case you need to freeze frame that and see all the parts. But there's all the parts. And so at this point, I took everything to the sink and I scrubbed it with Dawn dishwashing soap and a toothbrush and WD-40 where needed, where it was especially greasy and so on. Get a cotton swab down into all these journals and things and in there, and get all that cleaned up. And so the remaining video will be live action of the original reassembly and some of the discovery of what's going on in there and how the anti-reverse actually works. I'm going to see if I can get that bearing out of there. I know it's bad. And at least I can, if I don't have one right now to replace it, but I can at least get it out of there and get it freed up, so when I'm ready to replace it, I can. So you can see a little metal bushing or something in there, and I assume that's all linked together with the bearing. So I'm just going to see if I can press something in there similar diameter and see if I can. There comes the bearing. There's more in there. Or something. Okay, so we've got our bearing, which is really grindy, bad. And then we have this, some kind of a washer. And what do we have here? That looks like, I don't know if you can see that, but that looks like a needle bearing, and it's got an arrow on it. I wonder if that's an anti-reverse bearing. It's got a flat spot there. I don't know if I can get something in there of similar diameter. Let's just try this. By God, that's so I can turn it this way, but somehow those needle bearings are designed in such a way that it won't go backwards. So that makes a ton of sense as to why it was continuous anti-reverse, where I thought this gear, these cogs on this anti-reverse gear were the anti-reverse, but that wouldn't give you continuous anti-reverse. And so what I thought was a molded in anti-reverse stopper or whatever isn't. I think there's a hole there on my other one. I think there might have been, that's part of the casting where maybe they had a pawl in there. But this thing has a anti-reverse bearing in there. Question is, why wasn't it? Oh, looky there. There's a spot on the shaft where it's worn out. If you move it up or down, so that part of the shaft is narrower and wore out, which is why if I change the position, so when I was pushing this shaft in just a little bit, I was getting anti-reverse, but if it's up too high, I'm not. So the regular bearing would fit here, and but I might be able to put some kind of a shim washer in there to keep that bearing up a little bit higher, that anti-reverse bearing, where it actually, because you got these two things in here, but you can see right where those are, that shaft is wore out. If I could get it up a little higher, then I've got anti-reverse. And it wasn't much. It wasn't much on the reel, but right up in there, I've got anti-reverse. I go down here, I don't. I can't believe that shaft got that wore out. If I go down here, I've got anti-reverse. But that whole center shaft where that anti-reverse bearing is wore out. That's amazing. Must have just corroded in there. I can't imagine there was so much use on this thing that it wore out that part of the shaft. This bearing goes on first, and then that piece. Then you're in the anti-reverse gear. The arrow, the side with the arrow on it faces the other bearing, but you can see it's not working there. If I pull it back here, you know, it's starting to catch. But I think in the final analysis, I'm going to need a new pinion gear shaft in order to have anti-reverse. Because you'd really have to shim that up quite a ways to get that to work. Well, I'm going to put this back together and get it running with not an active anti-reverse, and just have to keep an eye open for parts. So this bushing goes in first. And then your anti-reverse bearing went in next, with the arrow facing up. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but I'm just using a similar diameter socket. I'm just going to pound that in. I'm going to have to do this off cam. That's in, and then this little ring goes in, and then the ball bearing. So we'll start with the back side of the reel here and getting our drag back in there. Remembering that the recessed side faces towards the rear of the reel. And so we sneak that up in there, and then we get our little drag gear here and line that rectangular shaft up with the rectangular hole there and punch that in, and our clicker still works. That's just the drag knob clicker, not the drag clicker itself. And we're going to want to end up taking and greasing the teeth on that. Just pack some grease in there, and then I like to lift these up and get some oil up underneath there and work that in, and some oil up here and along the shaft, and then stick that in there. So now we can put the main gear and pack the teeth of the main gear with grease. Butterfingers. Let's get those good and packed. And we can lay that in there. And then I'm going to oil the inside of these bushings. These have like a little tab on both sides, and the recess for those tabs are on the top and bottom. So you just sneak that in there and do the same on this side. Just line up those little, whoops, got it backwards, tabs with the recesses or notches, and then push that down over the main gear shaft. You gotta get that lined up in there and push that down until it seats. Same way over here. Push it down until it won't let you push it down anymore. There, like that. Okay, now we're ready to take and I'm going to go ahead and grease this just as kind of a corrosion preventative. And maybe the threads too. And of course you can switch this handle. If you're left-handed, you can put it in the other way. And then we've got our nut here. And get back to our penny. And I found these where the nut was missing, and that's probably not a very easy piece to find. I ended up molding and casting my own in that particular case. While we're thinking about it, we can put boop, boop, 2 drops of oil in those. I've already run WD-40 down there, and so now we can run some oil in there and work that around. Oh yeah, that's running real smooth now. Little bit of gear lash, only when you push in on it. Otherwise, quiet. All right. Now we can go ahead and return this. So there's a tab here, and there's a tab on the other side. So what I'm going to do is put that tab in its hole on that side and then gently push down, because we don't want to break those tabs. And this ring is plastic and you don't want to break that, and it's got 3 tabs on it. It doesn't matter which tab goes where as long as all 3 of them are lined up. And so you slide that over to line up those tabs, and then you're just going to make, my hands are all greasy here, a clockwise turn until that slips into its little groove all the way over. All right, now I've got the, let's see here, I guess that doesn't really matter, but when the drag's all the way off, oh yeah, it does go like that. So they have to fit in these little, there's a little ramp in there. So this is the deep end on this side, and there's a deep end over here, and then it ramps up. And you got to fit these ramps here into that. Like that. And I think once everything's together, that's what stops your drag from going past the teeth, is it hits the hard edge of that ramp, the deep end of that ramp. Okay. Well, I use my phone to record, so it's kind of hard to go back and check. And I don't always remember everything. Alright, so we need to keyed washer in there next, then Teflon, then the spool. Yeah, that's setting down. That's setting down there way better now. I can actually see how I'm going to get the drag knob, or the drag knob, the E-clip on there now. So then you got your last keyed washer. I've got that dragged down as far as it'll go. And now I'm going to get some corrosion off of this E-clip too. And I might just grease that E-clip a little bit, just so it slips on there a little better. Yeah, I think I did it. I think it's engaged there now. Alright, now we've got to oil the pickup pin and the pivot point just to make sure there's some slickeriness underneath that arm. And then screw this on. And okay, so the pickup pin is going in and the spinner head is raising up, and then when I turn that, spinner head comes down a tad, pickup pin comes out. So now we've got a drain hole here, so that is going to end up going down, facing down. So you find your tabs here, line them up, and turn clockwise. And let's see, there's still a little bit of dirt in here I didn't get. And I scrubbed that good too. This was one dirty reel. But it's working great now. And I really, like I said, I really like these. There's another one that has, I think, an all red cap. And I can't remember the number on it or the name, but I don't have one of those yet. I really want to get one. But I really like this reel. I use a different one of these a lot. And really like them. So there it is, all serviced and ready to go fishing. The Zebco Red Rhino RR3, first cataloged in 1997 and went at least through 2001. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.